Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new episode of Formula 1 2019 Career Mode. Today we go to Japan here for the Japanese Grand Prix. Coming off of a bit of a rough performance at Russia, it was a full wet race the whole time. We did put inners on towards the end, so it was a bad effort unfortunately. And here we come to qualifying here in Japan. We only made it to Q2 for this one, so it was a little unfortunate. Didn't quite have the pace that we quite wanted in the car, so we come straight towards the end of my qualifying attempt here in Q2 through this final corner there. A little bit of oversteer on the exit, but we would come through to cross the line at this point to go P11, and I knew right here I didn't have anything left, so I called it there, and we would actually drop down to P12 as we get ready to start the Japanese Grand Prix. So hopefully we can move ourselves forwards.
We're live today from the Mie Prefecture of Japan as we look forward to the Japanese Grand Prix. The 2015 race here was one of only 5 Grand Prix in history to feature no retirements at all. Although with the highly competitive field we have today, I don't expect we'll be repeating that stat anytime soon. 18 corners make up a lap of the incredible figure-of-8 Suzuka circuit, with 10 to the right and 8 to the left, for a distance of 3.6 miles. Average lap speeds around here are fairly quick. If it stays dry, then expect somewhere in the region of 136 miles per hour. And with me as usual is Anthony Davidson. So, let's briefly discuss Lewis Hamilton. They've got a really good lead in the championship going into this weekend, so it feels to me that they've got one hand on the trophy.
Certainly there are worse positions to be in, but it's vital they don't let complacency creep in. As soon as you let yourself think it's over before it actually is, that's where everything can and often will go wrong.
With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Vettel, Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, and Faber, Perez, Sainz, Fiat, and the Rainmaster, Albon, Leclerc, Romain Grosjean, and Raikkonen. Ricciardo, Magnussen, George Russell and Robert Kubica, Butler and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Alright, it's going to be a one-stop strategy here today for us in Japan, starting on the soft tire, going on to the hard tire later on as we get ready to go green here for the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka International Circuit. Now, as we're going to be starting here in the 10th position, as we do move up 2 spots due to grid penalties, Charles Leclerc, he will be starting just behind me here now as we get ready to go here for the Japanese Grand Prix as we get off the grid on this formation lap and head back towards the grid and get ready now to go green for the Japanese Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton has a chance to win the championship today if he finishes good enough as his 5 red lights, and Bottas leads the way here for the Japanese Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton takes off in the 2nd position now as we head down towards turns 1. We're under attack from Charles Leclerc as we go down to the 1st corner. We've been crashed now as we go down through turns 1, sliding off into the sand. Charles Leclerc stuck his nose up the inside. We made contact there with Kvyat and both Leclerc and go spinning here in turns 1. A big moment for us here in the Japanese Grand Prix. A big setback to say the least, as we're going to have the replay here of my point of view. It wasn't the greatest start, and I wasn't really expecting Leclerc to send it in there, and then Kvyat started coming over, or sorry, that was Alexander Albon. And now you see Leclerc's point of view there. He just got me in the right rear, and I mean, I could have stayed over to the left, but Albon, he started coming over on me, so obviously I start pushing over to the right, and unfortunately it ended with myself in the sand. Leclerc picked up a lot of left side wing damage, so he was into a bit of a sticky situation. He was way off the pace, and him being off the pace was helping me though. We were able to slowly reel in these guys up ahead at this point now as we come through on the later half of this first lap. And we got Devin Butler there in P18 as he was the other driver that had a grid penalty. Obviously, Leclerc was the first one, so Butler all the way back in P18. He's struggling here to get through traffic now as we get a little bit of oversteer on the exit of the final corner, coming through to complete that first lap. Now as we came through on lap 3, DRS has been enabled at this point now as we come through these first few corners, just trying to close up on the back. And one of the biggest problems I was having after getting spun out there on the first corner was the tires were overheating a lot, especially through this first sector, through these S's here. So it was unfortunate for us. Now, as every time I went to replay cam through these S's, the frame rates decided to drop for some reason. Either way, though, the tires were certainly overheating. There, as you saw on the left rear, at least it was 104 degrees Celsius, so not good at all. Really, once you get above 100, it's a bit of concern. But to my surprise, like, there wasn't really any oversteer with these tires being overheated, which usually when they get over 100, the grip starts to just completely fall off on the rear tires. But this time, the grip was there, so I was a little bit confused, to say the least, with what was going on now as we were continuing to slowly reel in the cars up ahead there of Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo and Devin Butler in the McLaren. And as we came to lap 7, we had run them down now, as Leclerc had held them up a ton. As we come through down towards this final sector at this point, Leclerc up ahead is under attack as everyone's trying to get past him. He has so much wing damage that everyone is just all over him, and you would think he would maybe come to the pit lane, but he has not come through to make a pit stop yet now as we head down towards the penultimate corner. Now we're going to look up the right-hand side there. Giovinazzi locking up, but we do make the pass on him, as that was a late move on myself as we make contact actually a little bit there after that pass happened, as everyone just checked up harder than I expected. I knew there was going to be a checkup, but not as hard as that, so I sent it up the inside, and we make the pass on Giovinazzi. And now we have a yellow flag up ahead, but for some reason, like, I didn't see anything going on, so I was very confused there. I didn't know what the yellow flag was for, so we would keep going on our way up through these S's, right up to the gearbox now of Robert Kubica. Now we got Butler up ahead of him, all over the back of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc in desperate need to fix that wing as we look to the left-hand side of Robert Kubica now as we come through the left bend. Leclerc goes off track into the sand, and now we're going to look to his left-hand side as well behind Butler there to make a little bit of contact with Charles Leclerc for the second time in this race now as we do go through the right-hander. I must mention that Leclerc actually did get a warning for that first lap incident with myself, as well as Alexander Albon got a warning, as well as we came to lap 10. I was going to come to the pit lane, but then our teammate Grosjean had decided to come in, so we waited another lap to make our pit stop. Now as we come towards the end of lap 11 in P15, Devin Butler up ahead at this point as we come through these final corners, heading down towards the pit lane, this time to put the hard tire on, which will be our only pit stop of this Japanese Grand Prix. Now as we get down to speed just in time, as we were actually in the red it showed, but thankfully I guess we were down to speed now as we come into the pit box, and the team will throw the hard tire on the car as we exit our pit box now just behind the Williams, who will be coming in obviously right there into his pit box. That might have been Kubica. No, it was actually George Russell now as we get ready to re-enter onto the racing track now as we exit pit lane. In P19, obviously still have a good chunk of work to do. Charles Leclerc hadn't even made a pit stop yet, so he had stayed out on this destroyed wing, and we were already close to him within range of 5 seconds or so, so he certainly is in a tough situation. His race has been completely destroyed with that incident now, so we're actually going to somehow get the better end of that incident that we had with Leclerc on that opening lap now as we close up right on the back of Butler, Leclerc, and I believe Daniel Ricciardo there in the Renault. So nothing going right now for Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, who's been outrun by his teammate of Sebastian Vettel for the majority of the season. Leclerc still looking for win number 1 in real life and in our game now, as we would continue to ride behind them now as we came through the left bend, heading down towards the final few corners. Butler, Ricciardo, and myself still trying to attack Leclerc. Butler had gotten past Ricciardo, obviously, as we come through this left-hander, and Charles Leclerc finally would come through to make a pit stop as we look to the left-hand side of Ricciardo getting put into the grass a little bit there, as that was pretty aggressive now as we all three of us have DRS. Ricciardo looks to the right-hand side, and we're going to just stick behind Butler here, as I would not want to make a 3-wide down into this first turn, and Ricciardo makes the move work now as he passes Devin Butler as we come through that first corner. Now Butler on lap 14 would counter-attack over Daniel Ricciardo as they would get very close wheel to wheel through these first few corners. Great action up ahead between Butler and Ricciardo, and Butler would come out on top now as we would close in on the back of Daniel Ricciardo. Renault is now down to the worst team on the grid now as we look to the left-hand side of Ricciardo here, coming towards this third sector, a little bit wide there, and almost made contact with Ricciardo. A bit of a mistake on my part, pushed him wide. Thankfully, though, we keep no contact, and now he came through on lap 15, though, on this front straightaway. Ricciardo once again going to attack back as we go down into the first corner. He goes wide, though, and we battle back up the inside. We make a little bit of contact, wheel-to-wheel action here with the Australian now as we go down through the left bend. We're going to keep our nose up the right-hand side now of Ricciardo, and once again, we come back out on top in front of Daniel Ricciardo here. Great action in the middle portion of this Japanese Grand Prix. Obviously down in P15, it's going to be tough for us to get points after what happened on lap 1, and now we would come through on lap 16, hitting lap 17. We had run down Ricardo's teammate of Kevin Magnussen. Now as we go down the straightaway, looking to the left-hand side of Kevin Magnussen, who also had some wing damage as he gets into my right rear, and we get a little bit sideways through turns 1, but we hang on to it thankfully. Now as we continue on our way at this point in the 14th position, so continuing to move our way forwards and fight our way back through the field, trying to rebound to a top 10. I think we were probably a 7th to 8th place car in the race, but unfortunately we got in that incident. Now as we came to a few laps later though, Pierre Gasly would be our first victim of a mechanical issue in the Japanese Grand Prix. As he had some type of mechanical issue, he would pull over to the right hand side of the track and he was done for the day here in Japan, and that would give us an extra position to help our chances of maybe getting into the top 10 before this race was over. So unfortunate for Pierre Gasly. Now as we come through on lap 20, up into P13, gaining that spot over Gasly, who had DNF, now closing in towards the back of our teammate of Roman Grosjean, who was actually dealing with a Williams, as well as Butler was dealing with that Williams. So a good chance to close up maybe on the back of Grosjean at least before this race is over, so we can still beat our teammates. And as we came to lap 21, Grosjean is still up in P13 as we're about 3.5 seconds behind him, and Butler, he would get past, it was not a Williams, it was actually Daniel Kvyat, sorry, and we would all close in on the back of Kvyat, and Grosjean and Butler, they would pass him. We would get to the back now of Daniel Kvyat through this first sector here on lap 24. Just 4 laps to go at this point. We don't have much time to waste, so we're going to get aggressive here, and we look to the right hand side of Daniel Kvyat and make the pass work, and we go up to P12, trying to set our sights on our teammate of Roman Grosjean in the final 3.5 or so laps of this Grand Prix. As we come through now on the back straightaway, about 1 second and 7/10 to my teammate of Roman Grosjean, so closing in on him fairly quickly. Devin Butler in that 10th position has gotten away enough to where we're not going to be able to catch him. If we put on the medium tire, we might have had something for him, but now we come through approaching 2 laps to go, continuing to close in on Grosjean now as we're setting our best lap at this point of the Grand Prix. And as we come through to hit the white flag at this point, now less than a second between myself and Roman Grosjean. DRS closing me up on the back of him as we go down into these first few corners. A chance to maybe steal P11 from our teammate of Roman Grosjean now as we come through this first sector. We certainly have the pace, and we just need to set him up possibly for that final long straightaway to make a pass on him and take the 11th position away from Roman Grosjean here in the Japanese Grand Prix. It's not going to be a points finish for us today, unfortunately, unless someone DNFs up ahead here on this final lap. But now, on this final few corners, it's Valtteri Bottas who is going to come through to get win number 2 on the season, and his teammate Lewis Hamilton comes through to take P2, and that will be enough for Lewis Hamilton to win the world title now here in Formula 1. Now as we come through, heading down towards this final straightaway, Max Verstappen did get the final podium position now as we're going to put the pressure on our teammate of Roman Grosjean on this final straightaway. We look to the left-hand side, side by side now. As we go down into the left-hander, we clear our teammate of Roman Grosjean. Up to P11 here in these final few corners in the Japanese Grand Prix, through the left-hander down towards this final corner here in Japan. A little bit of oversteer, but it's okay, as we're going to come through to finish P11 in the Japanese Grand Prix as Lewis Hamilton wins championship number 6.
We got it with that result, but let's work hard and we'll get it together for the next race.
And so the celebrations begin, and well earned they are indeed. It may have looked simple at times, but as any racing driver will tell you, competing at this level, at the very top, is anything but simple. There's no catching them now then. We have a new World Drivers' Champion. So, another fantastic victory for the Silver Arrows. Talk to me, Ants. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
Lewis Hamilton has dominated this season, and he wins the Drivers' Championship, I think 5 races earlier or so, and Mercedes also would clinch the Constructors' Championship. So Mercedes had a great season, and hopefully next season we can attack maybe when we are in Ferrari. Still not guaranteed that we're going to be in Ferrari next season, but certainly hopeful that we will be on Ferrari. Might be taking over Sebastian Vettel's position now, as we're still P5 in the Constructor standings and 8th in the Driver's standings. We definitely could have had a strong points finish. I think 7th or 8th would have kind of been where we would have been if we didn't have that first corner incident there with Charles Leclerc and Alexander Albon. So that was unfortunate for us, but we rallied back to get P11, which was still, in my opinion, a fairly solid result. The rep obviously goes down, which is unfortunate, but hopefully we can still get the Ferrari bar close to halfway, or past halfway by the end of the season. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Those would all be very appreciated. And the next one, I believe it is the Mexican Grand Prix that would go to a track that I have a good time at, so hopefully we'll have a strong race there and we can rally back. We've had 2 finishes now in a row outside the points, so hopefully we can get back into the points here for Mexico. So I will see you guys in the next episode for the Mexican Grand Prix. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have yourselves a great day.